Okay, here's the deal on solar. It is such a hard thing to get across to people the idea that solar is an important thing to do. And that leads to a lot of frustration and a lot of misinformation. But what I do understand is that this is a big ticket item, and big ticket items are, oh God. They're so hard to sell. And the truth of the matter is that I only have I don't necessarily think that solar is for everybody, even people that have perfect sun exposure. It's a hard call, and I find that getting people to even raise their hand seems incredibly difficult to me. I think there's a lot of fear on my part in terms of, being told no. And I attempt to be as
NAKED155 is online.
Empathetic as possible in regards to it. Plus, I also I also am, what's really irritating about this business is the fact that the other salesmen in the company, they all have a lot of backup income. So that when things aren't going well, it's just not a big deal. I mean, it may be frustrating, sure. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for everybody. But, I don't really have that cushion. And there's two things that really upset me about that. First of all, the fact that I don't have that cushion at the moment. But the other thing that's really irritating to me is, there's two things. One is I'm irritated at them, because, for some reason it's easier for them. And the reason it's easier for them is because it's not a make or break financial thing for them. And while I have lots of wonderful ideas and things, other ways of bringing in income, I know that my energy comes across as he really needs the money, so that's why he's doing this. And the truth of the matter is that is true on some level, but I also sincerely believe that solar is a valuable thing for people. And however, people, writing a check for $30,000 to $50,000, depending on the size of the house, even though there's all these tax rebates and everything, well, you got to have the tax rebate. You got to have the income in order to have the tax rebate. It's just like I was having a conversation with a friend of mine earlier today and said, she'd really love to have a hybrid. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but she doesn't have the type of income that requires creating a deduction for that $7,500 credit back. So, in other words, it's great to buy a hybrid, but you also, if you want to get the discount, it's gotta be situated in your taxes. And the same is true in the solar thing. There's, depending on how it goes, it's phenomenal the amount of money you can save, but it's also all predicated around your income tax. And if you're set in that kind of situation, that's great. And if you're not, and I also really understand that people don't want to spend the money till it hurts. And there's this incredible illusion out there that it's all fine and dandy to just continue to buy energy from Edison or whoever is you have as your provider. It's really sucky. And if people just looked at the numbers, just allowed any solar person that doesn't have an agenda, because most of them do, but any solar person who is not coming with an agenda, not wanting to sell them a lease when that's not the right thing for them, because leases are a right thing for the company. They're not really, for the most part, a right thing for the consumer or the client. And so it's really it's really frustrating because I had a potential project with someone who had this huge 900 square foot home with 7 air conditioning systems, and we demonstrated that after all the taxes, this 170,000, after all of the rebates, because first of all it was a commercial, it was a corporation ownership, but with the corporation ownership, we got it down to the actual out of pocket. Of course, the original is out of pocket, but the discounts via all of the tax benefits were down to like $60,000 over a $170,000 project, and a potential savings of $1.9 million over 30 years. And they didn't do it. They went with a lease. So they lost all the credits. They just lost everything. And it makes no sense because on top of it, it's a lien. A lease is a lien on your house. Obviously, most people will do a HELOC or do a, I can't remember what the name of it is. Do a, an ELN, I think it's called, loan. It's a home improvement loan. So that's a lien too, but that's a lien that's easy. That goes away if the house is sold. That's just all part of closing. But with a lease, it's a lien. And the buyer of the home, of the new home, has to either first they have to accept it. Second, they have to qualify for it. And if they don't qualify for it, if they're stretching already and they don't qualify for it, then the only way it gets sold, the house gets sold under that kind of scenario, is if the current owner, pardon me, buys out the lease. And the other thing about a lease is your costs continue to go up. Whereas once you buy one, in 3 to 8 years, you're at break even. So if you're planning on being in your house for 5 years, say, it's worth it. It's totally worth it. Because you have no control over what's going on with the electric companies, and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. But back to the frustration of being someone who wants to present that, and people aren't hearing the message. What the hell do you do? I just don't know. I mean, people have circumstances. I know that most people are partnered, and one person may be, it might be a challenge between the two. There's all kinds of circumstances, but when one looks at the numbers, just looks at the numbers, and they're planning on being in their home for anywhere from 3 to 8 years, and have guaranteed stability and greater comfort because you'll be able to run your air conditioner at 72 degrees instead of 80 in order to save money. It just is such a no-brainer. And but the challenge for me repeatedly is, how do you get people to get that? It's really something. How do I get people to get that? So that's my rant. That's my solar rant today. I hope somebody got something out of that. I know I'm scruffy. I haven't taken a shower because you can't smell that. I don't have my shirt on, but I just had to record. I had to talk about it because it's just weird. The whole thing is totally weird. I just don't get why people aren't in solar, buying solar right and left. I don't care about the frigging tariffs. I don't care that the technology is going to get better. There is no better time to buy solar than right now. This is it, right now. This is the time.